Have you ever walked into a room, surrounded by people, yet felt an invisible wall separating you from them? Everyone's polite, everyone's smiling, and then, almost predictably, the first words surface. Hi, how are you? You answer the same way you've answered 100 times before. I'm fine. And you? Then, silence. The spark fades. The conversation collapses before it ever truly begins. It feels mechanical, doesn't it? Like a script we're all reciting without meaning. A ritual so ingrained that no one questions why. And yet, deep down, you know something is missing. There's no connection, no memory left behind, nothing that makes you stand out in that moment. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in his Meditations, "If you must speak, speak only what is necessary." But look around today. How often do we throw away our rare chance to connect with one another by leaning on empty, lifeless words? Modern neuroscience confirms what the Stoics intuited centuries ago. The brain, incredible as it is, quickly learns to tune out repetition. Think of a ceiling fan humming in the background. At first, it grabs your attention, but moments later, it fades into nothingness. That's exactly what happens when we use generic greetings. Hi, how are you? Becomes background noise. Forgettable, meaningless, and so the real question emerges. How do you make sure you're not forgotten? How do you ensure that when you speak, your words don't disappear into the static of everyday chatter, but instead linger, resonating long after the conversation has ended? Today, I want to share with you something powerful, 4 simple words. Not just ordinary words, but timeless tools of Stoic wisdom. Words that carry a weight far beyond small talk. Words so magnetic that they can shift the energy in any room, dissolve tension, lower defenses, and pull people toward you without force or manipulation. And here's the promise. Stay with me until the end, because I'll also reveal one single phrase. A phrase that doesn't just replace the tired, "Hi, how are you?" but transforms it. A phrase that, when spoken with intention, will immediately change the way people see you and remember you. If you believe, as I do, that words are not just sounds but forces that shape destiny, then this message is for you. Consider subscribing to the Stoic Habit. Together, we'll rise, stronger, calmer, and unforgettable. Let's begin with the first of these 4 words. 1. Understand. The power of truly seeing someone. Picture this for a moment. You're in the middle of a heated argument. The air is thick with tension. The other person's face is flushed, their voice sharp, trembling with anger. Your instincts scream at you to fight back, to defend yourself, to win. But instead, you do something unexpected. You breathe, you look them in the eye, steady and calm, and you say, slowly, deliberately, "I understand you." In that instant, something changes. The atmosphere shifts. Their voice lowers. Their breathing steadies. Shoulders unclench. The tension, once so overpowering, loosens its grip. Why? Because beneath every mask of pride, beneath every burst of rage, there is one universal human hunger, the hunger to be understood. Modern science has a name for this: labeling. When emotions are recognized, when they are acknowledged and named, something remarkable happens inside the brain. The amygdala, the alarm system, quiets down. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reason, empathy, and control, switches on. With just a few words, you haven't dismissed their feelings. You haven't agreed or disagreed. You've simply acknowledged their humanity. And in doing so, you've offered relief. I understand you. 3 simple words, yet they carry the weight of compassion. They guide another person out of the storm and into calmer waters. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "First learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak." To understand before reacting is not weakness, it is mastery. It is choosing clarity over pride, connection over conquest, and make no mistake, this is not mere theory. It is practical power. Consider Warren Buffett. one of the most successful investors in history. Many assume his wealth was built on clever deals or shrewd numbers. But those who have negotiated with him tell a different story. He rarely begins by imposing his will. Instead, he starts with empathy. He says, "I understand the way you see this." And suddenly, the walls crumble. The energy in the room shifts from battle to partnership. Defenses fall. Space opens for true influence to emerge. This is the quiet power of understanding. Not to manipulate, not to dominate, but to disarm and create connection. And yet, here's the deeper truth. Understanding alone is only the beginning. Because to truly connect, you must move beyond "I understand" into something greater. Something that bridges the gap between two minds and makes another person feel as though you're standing right beside them, not across from them. So the question becomes, how do you take the foundation of understanding and transform it into alignment? Into a bond that lasts? That is where the second step comes in. It's about sensing, not just listening. It's about creating a bridge that goes beyond acknowledgement into shared presence. And that is where we'll go next. Now, imagine this. Someone is pouring their heart out to you. They're opening up about a decision they've made, a struggle they're carrying, or a dream they're chasing. You might not completely agree with their reasoning. In fact, part of you may see things from an entirely different perspective. The natural impulse is to interrupt, to correct, to point out the flaws. But instead, you hold back, you listen, and when they finish, you simply nod and say, "That makes sense." At first glance, it may feel like such a small phrase, almost too simple to matter. But those 3 words carry enormous weight. Because what you're really saying is, "I heard you. I respect the effort you put into explaining this. Your reasoning has value." And that recognition? It's rarer than most people realize. Psychologists have a name for this phenomenon. They call it emotional mirroring. When we reflect another person's thoughts back to them, we confirm their reality. And humans feel closest to those who affirm their experience of the world. Think about that for a moment. Closeness isn't always built on agreement. Sometimes, it's built on acknowledgement. It's built on the assurance that someone else has truly listened and understood how we see things. And this isn't just emotional fluff. On a deeper level, your brain actually rewards you for this kind of alignment. When someone hears, "That makes sense," their nervous system calms, and dopamine, the brain's chemical of reward, is released. Trust rises. A quiet, invisible bond begins to form. Suddenly, the conversation is no longer a debate to win or lose. It becomes a bridge between two perspectives. The Stoics, as always, understood this long before science put a name to it. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "Be tolerant with others, strict with yourself." And what is tolerance if not the discipline to pause, to acknowledge, to respect, even when you disagree? Saying, "That makes sense," is an act of tolerance. It is the conscious choice to show discipline over the impulse to dominate. Instead of proving someone wrong, you prove something far more important, that they matter. Consider how this plays out in the real world. Take Elon Musk, for example, a man known for bold ideas and controversial opinions. He faces constant criticism. Journalists, investors, skeptics, all challenge his vision. And yet, if you watch his interviews closely, you'll notice something fascinating. When pressed with skepticism, when someone points out a flaw or raises doubt, he often begins with, "That's a fair point. That makes sense," by saying this first, before launching into his own perspective. He disarms the tension. His critics no longer feel attacked. Instead, they feel acknowledged, and because they feel heard, they're willing to listen in return. The conversation stays alive, even in disagreement. Dialogue remains possible. But here's the key. Don't stop at a vague, "That makes sense." Because if you leave it there, the phrase risks sounding empty. Like another polite reflex, depth is what transforms acknowledgement into true connection. Precision matters. Instead of just saying, "That makes sense," take it one step further. "That makes sense to me because I see how you reached that conclusion." Do you feel the difference? One is a casual nod. The other is a mirror, reflecting not just their words but their reasoning. And when someone sees their own logic reflected back with clarity, they feel safe, they feel close, they feel drawn to you, not because you agreed, but because you showed them that their thoughts were worth understanding. This is the second step on our path: recognition. Recognition creates connection, but as powerful as it is, recognition alone isn't the end. There is something even stronger, something that cuts deeper into the human heart. It's the moment when you don't just recognize someone's reasoning, you dare to validate their truth. So, what happens when you look at another person, in the middle of disagreement, and simply say, "You're right." 3. Right. The strength in yielding. Picture this moment. You're locked in a heated discussion. Voices rising, pride stiffening. Every muscle in your body is ready to fight for ground, to hold your position. And then, rather than battling for every inch, you pause. You breathe, and you let go of the tug of war. You say, "You're right." Those two words can feel almost impossible to speak. Why? Because the ego whispers, "If I admit they're right, I lose. I surrender authority. I shrink in their eyes." But here's the truth. Recognizing someone else's truth does not diminish you. It elevates you. Psychologists call this the power of confirmation bias. Human beings are wired to feel warmth toward those who validate them. When you say, "You're right," you're not surrendering your authority. You're opening the door to trust. You're allowing someone to feel secure enough to lower their guard. Seneca once wrote, "It is the mark of a great mind to embrace truth, no matter where it comes from." The insecure feel the need to win every argument. The wise, however, know when to yield. Think of Steve Jobs, a man famous for his intensity, for his uncompromising standards. By all accounts, he wasn't easy to work with. His passion often clashed with the people around him. Yet, there were moments, critical moments, when even in the middle of fierce debate at Apple, he would stop, consider, and then say, "You're right about that." And instantly, the temperature in the room dropped. The storm calmed, tension dissolved. The people around him felt seen, respected, valued. Ironically, it wasn't his dominance that made his leadership magnetic in those moments, it was his ability to yield. Because here lies the paradox. When you validate someone else, you don't lose respect, you gain it. People are drawn to those who don't need to win every battle, to those who are strong enough to yield when the truth deserves it. Understanding, acknowledging, and even having the humility to yield when someone else is right. These are all steps that bring us closer to true connection. But the journey doesn't end there. Because beyond understanding, beyond validation, lies the rarest gift you can offer another human being, the gift of pure presence. And it begins with just two simple words: "I'm listening." Think about that. In a world where everyone is shouting to be heard, the person who truly listens shines like a flame in the darkness. When you look someone in the eye and say, "I'm listening to you," you're doing far more than confirming that their words reached your ears. You're sending a deeper message. Right now, you matter. Right now, you have my full attention. And attention is the most precious currency in human connection. Yet most of us spend it carelessly, scrolling through our phones, interrupting, or simply waiting for our turn to respond. Research from the University of Minnesota reveals a staggering truth. On average, people only remember about 25% of what they hear. That means true listening is incredibly rare. And because it's rare, it's priceless. The Stoics understood this thousands of years before modern science gave it a name. Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we may listen twice as much as we speak." Seneca also reminded us that wisdom doesn't reveal itself through quick words, but through the patience to listen fully before responding. Because listening is not weakness. It is the restraint of the instinct to dominate. It is discipline, humility, and strength, the very virtues the Stoics valued most. But look at how this power plays out in the modern world. Barack Obama, one of the most admired communicators of our time, was respected not only for his speeches, but for his presence. In private meetings, he would lean forward, hold eye contact, and truly listen. Those who left the room didn't just say, "He spoke well." They said, "He listened to me." And that is why they trusted him. That is why they followed him. Here's the truth. Appearance may attract for a moment. Status may impress for a while. But the feeling of being deeply listened to, that binds people to you for life. When you practice true listening, something extraordinary happens. People don't just talk to you. They open themselves to you. And in that moment, you become unforgettable. So remember, listening is stepping outside your own ego to enter someone else's world. It is not weakness, it is mastery. It is both discipline and inner strength. And when you've walked through all 4 steps, understanding, acknowledging, validating, and listening, you now hold 4 keys. 4 tools that can unlock the doors of deep connection. But here lies one final challenge. None of these tools matter if the door is never opened in the first place. Most conversations still begin with a lifeless script. "Hi, how are you?" It's polite, yes, but rarely does it spark anything real. It rarely makes you memorable. It slips by like background noise. Just another automatic exchange in a world already overflowing with them. That's why I want to give you something better. A phrase so simple, yet so unexpected, that it instantly shifts the energy between you and the person in front of you. Instead of asking, "How are you?" try saying, "Tell me something good." Pause for a moment and feel the difference. Doesn't it sound different? Doesn't it carry a spark? With just one small change, the script is flipped. It doesn't trap the other person in routine answers like, "Fine," or "Okay." It lifts them. It puts them at ease. It opens the door to something more meaningful. Suddenly, they're not answering out of habit anymore. They're searching for a light. A moment of joy, something that truly matters to them. And when that happens, a subtle but powerful shift takes place. You're no longer just another forgettable face in the crowd. You become the person who drew light out of their day. You become that rare presence, the one who invited them to pause, to reflect, and to share something real. This is the Stoic way. Presence over routine, meaning over noise, words that awaken, instead of words that numb. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to live with intention, to resist drifting into habit, and to never waste time on empty gestures. And in this small act, choosing your words differently, you are practicing that intention. You refuse to waste moments on lifeless scripts. You choose language that connects, nourishes, and awakens. Think about the power in that. A single sentence, if spoken with true presence, can shift the entire atmosphere of a conversation. It can turn a stranger into a friend, a colleague into an ally, or a fleeting encounter into a memory that lingers. Why? Because people don't always remember every detail of what you said, but they always remember the feeling you left them with. So next time you meet someone, whether it's a coworker, a friend, or even a stranger, try it. Look them in the eye. Let them feel your full attention. And say, "Tell me something good." Then do the most important thing of all. Listen. Truly listen. Give their words room to breathe. Let their joy, their memory, or their story exist fully in the space between you. And as you do, don't forget the 4 timeless tools we've explored: to understand, to acknowledge, to validate, and to listen. These are not tricks. They're not techniques. They are the foundations of connection, the practices that transform empty exchanges into meaningful moments. Because in the end, attraction, whether in friendship, love, or leadership, is not about chasing. It doesn't come from trying to impress. It comes from awakening. Awakening presence within yourself. Awakening understanding in others. Awakening that deep human thread that lies beneath every conversation. And more often than not, that awakening begins with the right words, spoken at the right time. So let's close this journey with clarity. We've uncovered 4 timeless words: understand, acknowledge, validate, listen. Simple, yet carrying a treasury of wisdom. And instead of clinging to the empty question, "How are you?" we now have a new opening. Tell me something good. This isn't a trick. This isn't manipulation. This is presence. Pure, undeniable presence. And that kind of presence is what creates a magnetism that outlasts appearances. Polished speeches, or status. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." In the same spirit, I remind you, waste no more words on emptiness. Choose words with power. Choose words with intention. Choose words that connect. And if this message resonates with you, join us here at the Stoic Glow. Subscribe. Share this message with someone who needs it. And most importantly, commit to your own journey of presence. Before you go, leave a simple comment. I choose presence. Because in a world full of noise, presence isn't just rare, it's unforgettable.